Welcome to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
Joanna Barbera.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
How do you pronounce your last name?
You just did it correctly.
Did we do it right?
Which is amazing. That
Jackpot.
does not happen often in my life.
Okay, very cool. So East Nashville?
I live in East Nashville.
How
yes.
long have you lived in East Nashville or Nashville proper?
Nashville proper, I think I'm going on at least 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
We moved here in March of 2014
Okay.
from upstate New York. So if you say 6 years, we probably wound up in Nashville roughly the same time,
Around
maybe,
the
give or
same
take.
time.
So we tried to move to East Nashville 2 years ago. Actually, we tried really hard. We almost did it. We couldn't sell our house. And then last year and a half ago, our house sold and we wound up just south of the city. But East Nashville is a very special place.
It
Very
is.
cool.
It is.
Yeah. You like it there?
I do. I'm actually craving the country now, currently. Craving being a little bit more surrounded by nature, but
Okay.
I do appreciate the culture of East Nashville.
There's a
for
culture
sure.
in East Nashville that I think you don't get anywhere else in the city. Last week we were in East Austin, and I feel like there's some similarities between East Austin and East Nashville.
You're making a lot of interesting connections because I moved here from Austin and I'm from New York.
No way.
Yes.
Really?
I feel like I might as well just throw that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so where in New York?
So I grew up about 35 miles north of Manhattan in Rockland County.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And and then I lived in Austin. I've lived in many places, but I lived in Austin 7 years before I moved to Nashville.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay, so when I say New York, we were between Rochester and Syracuse. We were kind of western part of the state. New York City, in my opinion, is the greatest city on earth. I always love to visit. I'm not sure how it would be like to live there, but Austin is phenomenal. What brought you from Austin to Nashville?
Music. I was a musician. I am a musician.
Ah,
So, yeah,
okay. That's funny because when we were in Austin last week, there was someone there, I can't remember who it was making a point about, I think it was Matt Alvarez, actually with Soundshed Studios, was saying that he's like an audio engineer who's kind of got into like the podcast space in Austin. Like there's some pretty high name podcasters that are moving into Austin, and he's like creating their studios. This is like just a thing that he happened upon. And he was making the point that he came to Nashville like a year ago for something related to audio engineering, and his point was like Austin has a bit of a music scene, but Nashville takes it to a whole nother level, which sort of surprised me.
I mean, it's more like professional here, I guess, if you want to say.
That's kind of what he was saying.
Yeah. But I loved when I moved to Austin. It was I caught the tail end of sort of the rootsy Austin before the big tech and everything started moving there, and I just felt like it welcomed me with such a big open arms, and everybody. I learned how to be a songwriter there, and everybody was playing music on their front porch, and it had that pressure was missing from there, which was nice.
Okay, yes.
You know what I mean? So it was, when I moved there, I couldn't believe a place like that existed, because I was like, this is like Candyland for musicians. Like,
Yes.
you know, everybody's really good and chill.
Okay.
So it was really nurturing place to live. But yeah, so I moved here thinking like, well, I'm ready to take it to the next level and be professional. And
Okay.
and then when I moved here, it kind of knocked me on my ass a little bit, because there's an air here that's a little bit different than that kind of.
Oh, really?
Well, just that in Austin, it was like we play music because we love it, which is also here, but it wasn't that sort of chase, to be signed and to be a publisher, and
Exactly.
it didn't have that element to it.
Yeah. So when did you move to Austin then?
I moved to Austin probably in 2006 or 7, somewhere in there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I lived
Yep.
there
Okay. So and then you were there for
7 years.
7 years, and then Nashville. So if you moved to Austin in 2006, it was probably a very different city then. But Nashville, I feel like, was a very different city. Well, would have been a very different city in 2006 too, for sure. Even different when we moved here in 2014. I mean, the growth that Nashville has had from 2014 to 2020, now we're almost in 2021. I mean, things change, I mean, I think the culture is still mostly changed, or I'm sorry, it's like has stayed the same. It's just when Amazon like moves in with 5,000 employees and like these types of things start happening, it's different,
Totally.
And Austin is having tremendous growth right now. A lot of people are moving in from California and stuff, like other states as well. All right, so I'd like to hear a little bit about who you are and kind of your story, and then we'll get into kind of some of your work today.
Sure. So, so originally from New York.
Mm-hmm.
I left home when I was about 19, and
You have siblings?
I do. Two older sisters. So
Okay.
Italian New Yorkers, 100%, loud.
Oh, yeah? Oh, fun.
Raised Roman Catholic,
Oh, yeah? Very cool.
So got that whole thing going.
Do you have a good relationship with your sisters growing up? Like, did you do a lot of things together and stuff? Or?
I mean, I don't know. We were 80s kids. So like,
Okay.
all the movies, like we were taught to be like, really like, arguing with each other all the time. And so, the Ferris Bueller's Day Off kind of vibe. My oldest sister, I was the most annoyingest thing to her, and I thought she was God, kind of thing.
It's funny you say that, because I think there's something in the Lapp genes. Like when I grew up, you had to fend for your own. Mm-hmm. And we have 5 kids now, and the oldest is 10. And I don't know what we're doing wrong, but my wife and I were just saying, like, we feel like our kids, like, there's they kind of have to fend. They act like they need to fend for out, like look out for themselves. Like,
yeah.
Like, can we have a more peaceful household, please? But I mean, they have a ton of fun together, but they also like look out for their own, and they fight sometimes too.
Yeah. I mean, we're fine. We all get along now. It's 3 girls, so it's pretty, intense. Holidays are very like loud, laughing, crying, yelling.
Yeah, I'm sure. That sounds fun though.
It is fun. So yeah, I grew up in New York. I left when I was 19. I went to Arizona. I went to school in Arizona. That's actually where I did my first, that's sort of where the spirituality birthed, I guess. Did my first Kundalini Yoga class when I was in Arizona. I won't go too deep into it, but when we touch on it later, I ended up like being part of a spiritual group at a very young age, which made me had a very different early, 20s than most people. I admit I was doing a lot of spiritual work at that point.
In college?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right? When most people are like, ooh, I think I had a year of the partying, and then I just sort of found a spiritual path that was very, I don't like to say cult-like, but I guess in textbook terms it was, because it was sort of like an organization group kind of thing, that I was very committed to. So, so I did that for like 5 years. And then, so that's where the seeking, actively seeking started pretty young. And then, I moved from, where was I? Arizona to San Francisco after I graduated from college.
Okay.
So I went up to San Francisco, and then, had a little turn of events in my life. My father got ill and passed away, and that kind of put the spirituality to a halt. And I decided to go full on in with the music, which had been a dream of mine since I was a child. So then the music life. San Francisco, moved to Austin, was fully doing the music thing, was kind of channeling a lot of my grief into the music, refound Kundalini Yoga again, did a teacher training in Austin, and then sort of the worlds, were blending at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Were you like, say, mid-20s then when your dad died?
26.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And why did that kind of stop your spirituality pursuit?
It was pretty shocking. He got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which is a pretty quick, not very small survival rate. And it was really intense, and I didn't really know how to wrap my head around it. And I always knew that I was, I was always like a hippie, if you will, like a naturalist, and just sort of like losing control and watching my father go through like chemo when like the survival rate was like 3%. And I'm like, why are they putting him through this then? And it was just a lot to process and not understand why. I mean, now I have an understanding of how big pharma works and things like that. So I understand why they did that, because it was profitable. And, so it was really it was like all my intuition was like ding, 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 but I didn't really have the knowledge to understand what was going on. And it really threw me off. I mean, obviously losing your father is going to throw you off regardless, but the whole thing was just like so against everything in my being. It just didn't seem right. And I was taking care of him. And luckily my father just one day was like, no more chemo. And he like went off of everything and just kind of, let himself fade out the way we are intended to, I guess, when we get sick,
Yeah. Did you say that they were doing chemo even though the treatments that they were giving him were 3% survival rate or 30% survival rate?
I think pancreatic cancer is like a 3 to 5% survival rate. Like
so
if you have, or maybe it's like, it's like what Patrick Swayze died from. It's or 3 to 5 years. Like when you have pancreatic cancer, basically by the time you realize that you have it, it's kind of too late because it's just a small organ. So when you feel it, that means the tumor, if you will.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And what was the dissonance? Just the way like you operated and your worldview and beliefs and everything like that. And then this was so kind of jarring or like corporate-y, or like, I'm just kind of curious the dissonance that you were feeling there.
Well, like I guess I probably was too young to think about like how I would ever handle cancer had I gotten it, right? But like right when my dad got diagnosed, I was like acupuncture, and then I was like trying biofeedback, and I was like trying to find all these things that I had been introduced to in 7 years now of my life, because I started the spiritual path when I was 19, 20. So I was wanting to implement these holistic ways of doing it, but it was like the big C, the big cancer. I hadn't done enough research on it. I just knew in my heart that like there are healing methods and mechanisms and healing your emotionality. At that point, I'd read a lot of Louise Hay and Carolyn Mace, and people talking about how emotion creates scar tissue, and unprocessed traumas make us sick, or certain ways of thinking. So I was reading all that stuff, and then my dad gets cancer. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, what do we do? Like, what is the, what's the thing? What gave it to you? I was like under this impression from all the, and even my teachers at the time were very like, disease comes from an imbalance in energy. The teachers at the time I was working with were from Korea. It was a very Eastern way of, philosophy way of thinking with the body and the energy system. So, I had my father, there was a kind of a sector, I guess you would say, of the group that I was working with in New York. And I like had him try to go to a class, and I was like trying to rush these holistic methods on him at a very, again, young age, and not fully understanding it. And it was just sort of out of my hands at the same time, because a doctor was telling him he had terminal cancer, and to get on chemo, if he had any, if he had a shot, it was going to be to shrink the tumor. And,
Did he try any of the holistic stuff?
He did acupuncture. He really liked that. That was very, if anything, just sort of relaxing for him.
Okay.
He did do a few biofeedback sessions with someone I had known in Arizona via phone. Apparently, you can do that. What else did he do? I had him like taking certain supplements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I don't know much about pancreatic cancer. My dad died from cancer when I was 10. He was 36 years old. I just turned 36 a month ago. So I've I actually don't know that I've technically outlived my dad quite yet. In a few months I will have. Which is super weird, because I remember like, when he died and you're 10, it's like, this guy's a grown man. He has his life figured out. You know what I mean? He just seems so old, mature. Now that I'm that age, I'm like,
yeah,
I still feel like I'm growing up.
I know.
I know. But I don't know. That was in 94 that he died. And I don't know that they tried a lot of holistic stuff. It was a different day back then. But have you seen the documentary Fantastic Fungi? Okay. Candace Bruder, who introduced me to you with Pure Sweat Sauna and Float Studio around Nashville. Which is awesome, by the way. She's really great, and she was on the podcast. But she, I think, had it on her Instagram, and I saw it. So I watched the documentary. It's really fascinating. I watched it on Apple TV. I think I had to rent it.
Okay.
But it talks about the healing properties of mushrooms. And one of the healing properties from mushrooms is it's turkey tail mushrooms that can be effective with breast cancer. And Paul Stamets, who is like a mushroom guru, his mom had, I think, stage 3 or 4, very, very bad breast cancer, and was basically supposed to die from it, and was healed through turkey tail mushrooms.
Yeah, there are more stories like that than is let on the main media that we have. For some reason, those stories are kept somewhat silent. But yeah, like Gerson therapy is another one that's just juicing and coffee enemas, and just has cured many people of cancer. So we have so much. Something that I like to teach my clients is like, we have so much power within us and in our minds, and our inner compass is really the only, I believe, the only thing you need. Mm-hmm. And we're taught to be so dependent on other people. And yeah, of course, other people are experts, but I mean, there's nothing like taking the power into your own hands and educating yourself, and then using, your gut, if you will, or your intuition to be like, you know what, I can't put my finger on it, but this way I have 5 choices in front of me, and choice number 2 just feels right. Doesn't make sense on paper, but it feels expansive. It feels right. I'm going to trust that. And then, that leads you to the next place and to the next place. And just our minds are so powerful to manifest even healing sicknesses that are said to not be, healable.
Yeah, exactly. Let's complete kind of the arc with your story. So Austin, and then Nashville, and then what? Can you give us an overview of your kind of your work now?
Here, yeah, sure. So I was sort of, I make a joke in my story on my website. I was living like this dual lifestyle, which was really not working for me, which was like club musician, like by night, like whiskey. Here and there, and then by day, like trying to keep up with my practice and be a yogi. And
what do you mean whiskey with the club? Like kind of music and partying?
Yeah, just sort of the in the scene that I guess I was in mostly. It's kind of like I don't know, the songwriter Americana. I wasn't like I was in the more kind of Americana scene, if you will, so I just always wanted to feel like I was networking and, staying in the game, because honestly, I hated it. I loved seeing live music, but I hated going to the clubs. I hated partying.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just not going to the clubs, but just the energy of like, I guess just the partying energy, if you will. You know what I mean?
It didn't feel like true to you, or like you didn't feel genuine when you were doing that.
It didn't feel genuine until I was a few drinks in.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
And then it felt just right.
Yeah. So that was like the perfect indicator of the intuition, right?
Yeah.
Right. The intuition trying to be like, so I was, try to go out at least a couple of times a night, because I really, really wanted to see my dream come into fruition. I wanted to be playing the Ryman, and but I always wanted to be, music was always healing, to me. Like, I wanted to be a healer through music. I knew I always wanted to do healing work, but I wanted it to be through music. And I was trying to sort of break into that kind of energy into this industry that isn't really supportive of that. And I kept telling myself, I'll be the one, who can be strong in it. And then same thing, I would go to the club, try to be sober, just be like, this freaking sucks. Have a couple of drinks. And then there I was, I kind of met the state where it was, you know what I mean? Kind of like, this is the vibe. This is what makes it.
You kind of got into flow with the rest of the people there. Exactly. Like you were in the same kind of headspace, and
right. And again, I'm trying to curate my words right, because I don't want to seem like an elitist or like that. Right. I think I'm better than anybody. It just this is what it didn't serve my my chemical design or my spiritual design. So then interestingly enough, I ended up getting an opportunity 2 years ago to go on tour with a band in Europe. And that was a really big deal. And I was like, oh my God, here I am. I arrived. Like, I'm so close. Like, all the indie labels are going to know. And yay, And I was like so pumped. And at this point, I was really, really trying to balance, like I said, the spirituality with the lifestyle. So, always listening to mantra music and, trying to eat right. And then like, time went on Friday night, you know what I mean? Like, it was really like a whole thing. So I go on tour, I'm super excited. And like within a week, I was just like dying. Like, I had gone on tours independently for years. For like 10 years, I would just do indie tours with my indie musician friends that we were all just on our own label and stuff like that, And I always was like a dork about it. I would stop at a Whole Foods in the city and I would like fill a cooler up with like kombucha and like, I've been a vegetarian for 20 years. So like, I was always kind of, even if again, I was partying along the side, I was always like trying to take care of myself to some extent. And it just was not that was not the lifestyle of the 5 dudes I was in a van with.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And which is fine. Again, it just wasn't, and also I was a lot older than all of them, which I was like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Okay.
I'm older than everybody. I've been doing this for a long time. So, basically I just went on tour for a month and I saw an angle of what I had been chasing. You know, they were on a label that I would have at the time would have loved to have been on. And I just got home and I like collapsed, like on all levels.
You got home from Europe?
Yeah.
From this tour?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, what was your position in the band?
I was opening for them.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So it was like me and my guitar and like 5 dudes in a band.
Okay.
And I was opening for them.
I see. So it was you and your guitar just doing your thing.
My own thing.
And then these 5 dudes would come on and wow.
But I was on their tour.
I see.
I didn't have a label. Like they were even like, who's your label? Like who's helping you with all this? I was like, nobody. I did everything. I was like booking like my own hotels like alongside them.
Wow.
I was in the van with them. And, you know, I was on the ticket, but I was just like managing, which also, you know, was part of the element of being tired too. But just the way, like, it was just so fascinating, like to see the way that the label set up their tour, like nobody was taking into account wellness. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody was considering that they had like 2 days off on the whole tour. And those days they were traveling for 10 hours in the van. And I was like, this is not freaking healthy, like for anybody.
Right.
And I had no control over it. Which is also an issue for me. So.
Okay. But that's still how it is, isn't it? I mean, when you tour, it's like they're not taking your wellness into consideration.
Yeah.
It's game on.
And it's considered like funny. You know what I'm saying? And then I realized like the whole like partying scene and everything, there's this sort of air of like joking about like, oh, I got so fucked up last night. You know what I mean? There's this thing that happens in the music industry, or at least on that level, you know, in the indie scene, if you will, where it's like, it's just like, I don't know. It's like mixed into the culture of it in a way that it's made okay.
Were they indie also, or what was their kind of thing?
Indie rock band.
They were indie rock, and you were.
I mean, I kind of like no. I mean, when I say like, it's funny. I say I ran with the Americana like crowd, kinda. I mean, I never fit in. That's the whole point. Like even when I lived in Austin, I was always trying to be like, who am I? I grew up listening to Tori Amos. I was always like playing like really weird, like just very like I feel like channeled songs. You know what I mean? Like kind of, you know, very like what in the vein of. Let's go back, like Kate Bush, Tori Amos, like, you know, it was going to, who else? I'm trying to think, like PJ Harvey, I guess, to a certain extent, but more of those kind of ethereal female singer-songwriters, you know, Elliott Smith, you know what I mean? Like just like the darkest stuff. But it was definitely like my music was like my shadow side for sure. Like I'd work, you know, but it was always, I just was like, where do I fit in? Is it this crew? Is it the like weirdos? Is it the, you know, then I was like, I guess I'm indie because indie means like you're not mainstream, you know? I was really struggling. So it was just really kind of magical how it recently all came together, because when I got back from that tour, I was kind of heartbroken because I saw like what I was chasing, you know, wasn't going to be conducive. I was like, if this was me 7 years ago on that tour, I'm like, I would have been so much fun. They would have loved me. I would have been like making them laugh their asses off, drinking with them, not caring if we slept. You know what I'm saying? Yep. But I was at this point where like my soul was like, we're not. There was like one night that I like went for it with them, and my soul was like, yeah, we're not. This is not your life anymore. Like,
That's interesting. That's the recurring thing, right? There is what would you call it? A maturity. There's an awareness that you have, an inner awareness that a lot of the things that go with the party lifestyle is not conducive to wellness. It doesn't usually serve you very well the day or the weeks after, right?
Well,
it seems like you've had that awareness for a while.
And I kept trying to pretend that I can. And then there's plenty of musicians who are sober, right? There's plenty of musicians that get sober and they're still able to go to the shows and whatever. But for me, it was still like, but I don't want to be like, I don't want music to relate with alcohol. Like, like why is this thing that's so beautiful and sacred to me? I don't want people to be drunk. You know what I'm saying? Like, because remember, going back 15 years, you know, I had been trained under such a different world, total different reality, high level healers. We were waking up when I was like 22 years old, we were waking up every morning at 5 a.m. and doing these like bowing meditations. And I was just at the studio, the center all the time. I wasn't out drinking. I wasn't having that kind of lifestyle. Now, mind you, I had ping ponged a long time. I mean, I went to a Grateful Dead show when I was 13 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like I started young. I had a lot of like ping ponging back and forth between like the party life, the spiritual life, the party life, the spiritual life. But it was because I think I was battling, like even that with the Grateful Dead right there, who kind of opened up my eyes to this whole other world of spirituality, right? It was all connected to, psychedelics and whatever, which I get. Psychedelics are expansive. They can be healing in many ways. But when it became about like the music that I wanted to share from my heart, like I was just like, this is not the energy that I want to do that in. And it was frustrating because I was seeing it so black and white. It was like, I'm either spiritual or I'm a musician. And I saw this split it was weird that I had, that I was, I guess because I wanted to like make it to a certain extent,
Yeah. Okay. That's a very fascinating point in time. By the way, when you were this battle between spiritual or being a good musician, do you feel like you have more resonance on the two now?
Yeah. So circling back to when I got back from Europe, I just sort of like dropped the mic, I was like, I need a break. Like, because I knew that had I wanted to maximize on having that opportunity, I would have had to continue to hang out, continue to be in the scene, because that's how it works. You stay friends, you hang out, you got to really like show up, like in anything in life.
Yeah. So they take you on the next tour, you mean, which is bigger or better, or you get introduced to other bands.
Yeah, or you get introduced to other bands, you're hanging out, you're at Mickey's, you know what I mean? You become friends with another musician, and then like you guys get along, you hang out and play music together, you become friends. Hey, why don't you come on this solo tour with me? I mean, that seemed to be how everybody I knew ended up breaking into the scene, was through
makes total sense. Yep.
Some kind of social.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Mickey's thing. Have you spent a few nights at Mickey's?
Oh, yeah. Not in like a couple of years, but yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been to Mickey's, Jonathan, in East Nashville? Oh, you have? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a great little.
It's a little watering hole.
It is, yeah. Great. I mean, it's a great little spot. I've been there a few times, and but like a few years ago, and in more recent years, where like no trouble, I've never had trouble with alcohol, so I think that's a blessing. I've
had alcoholics in my family, so I think I have a personalized sort of battle with it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So is when you felt this battle with your music, but then the kind of the partying and the alcohol, also other drugs that you would lump in there as being a problem for you, or was it really alcohol?
I would say it was mostly alcohol for sure. I think that I just used it to connect.
Yeah.
And that's really what I was always wanting. I was always wanting those deeper connections. So I would, drink, and then I'd be belly up to the bar next to somebody, talking to them for 3 hours and having these like deep, metaphysical conversations that I didn't really need the alcohol for, but it sure as hell seemed a lot more suiting in those environments, just to like stay up till 5 a.m. And like when I was on tour with the band, me and the lead singer one night shared an Airbnb together, and like went out in Madrid and had a bunch of wine, and we were drinking, and then we brought beer back to our Airbnb, and we stayed up till like 6 a.m, like playing music for each other. And that whole thing used to be what I loved. I hated it because I felt like shit the next day, but I loved it because I loved that, like, let's go fucking deep. You know what I mean? Let's get under the layers. Like that was always the root of what I was chasing.
Right.
Was that depthfulness.
Yes.
And I was doing it in a way that was really bad for me.
Did you ever use other drugs? And I hate to even lump cannabis under the term drug, but did you ever use cannabis or anything like that and accomplish the same ends, but not have like the kind of the bad reaction or the bad side of alcohol? With like marijuana, I'm so empathic that if I smoked and like walked into a social situation, I would like
It'd be like, I know my friend is the opposite. I have a friend who uses marijuana because it like shuts that down so she can be social. But for me, it was just like, oh my God, like she's in a fight with her boyfriend. He's like, he's a weirdo. Like I would just like feel the whole room, you know. It was like, it would invoke anxiety in some situations. You know, if I smoked with like people that I felt comfortable with, it would have a really different effect. But trying to just go into a club, you know, high was a little hard for me too.
Yeah, alcohol had very kind of particular results. Elements to it that would kind of lead you into a short-term kind of gain or kind of have you share experiences with other people, but ultimately just wasn't serving you well.
Yes. Yeah. It, like I said, it created that like, let's be real. Now we've had a couple of drinks. Let's cut through the layer. Let's cut through the veil that's there.
Well, we don't need to kind of beat a dead horse here, but I'm fascinated by this because I feel like there's something here. First of all, if let's just say you're in East Nashville and like, what's the equivalent, you know, of people hanging out at a bar and going belly up beside someone and having a 3-hour conversation at a bar? Like, you don't find that at a park. Mm-hmm. You know, if you have friends, you can go hang out with friends, I guess. But there is something to bars can serve like a place in society that it's hard to actually sometimes get just anywhere else, right? Like I'm trying to think of like what else you could have done.
Well, that's,
you know? Like
that's
where else
what
do
was
people hang out?
frustrating for me. Yeah, it was very frustrating to try to be an adult like that. Well, so bring us back to what I do now. So when I got back from tour, I took a break from everything and had to kind of regroup. And the Music City Mindfulness kind of birthed itself. I didn't quite, it was like throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks, but I was like, I don't know, I just need to start creating something social that I feel like I can, you know, all of that. It just feels real. I need to be around people, but I don't want to go to the bars anymore. You know, I don't feel like doing that world anymore. It's not serving me. I need a break, but I can't be by myself all the time. And I started hosting circles. And I had now 15 plus years of, I feel, high level trainings, you know, yoga certification, meditation certification. And I trained under some really high level healers that had been, you know, elders that had been doing it a long time. And I just started hosting these circles where I would include, you know, sort of a few different things that, whether it be some mantra, meditation with some theme, it would usually be a new moon theme or a full moon theme. And everyone sold out. And I was like, I can't get 25 people to one of my freaking shows. I'm getting like these circles to, you know, fill out. And I was still it was cool because I was like still being me. I always thought, right, Joanna the spiritual had to be different than Joanna the musician. And I was like, oh, like I'm still being me. I'm still being like, you know, funny. Like I like to be light about things to a certain extent, right? Mm-hmm. Not be all like rigid. And I was leading these circles and it was awesome. And I did it for like a year. I was doing like 1 to 2 a year. And then I was getting private clients that wanted to do, you know, private yoga, mindfulness mentoring is what I was calling it. I was like, this is crazy. Like, is this, I knew it. This is what I was supposed to freaking do all along. I'm chasing this music career. But then I hit a wall again and I was like, oh, I like really miss music. Like, I mean, why does it have to be one or the other? And then I kind of came to this conclusion of like, it doesn't, but I have to kind of create a culture. And I can't tell you how many other people feel like this. You know, how many other people feel like they really do just go to the bar because they want that connection. Yeah. And I'm not shaming that way of doing it. It's just a little odd that society has made it like, kind of like you said, the only way. You were just asking me, well, what else is there, right? That's strange to me. Mm-hmm. I think that we're designed to be ritualistic creatures. I think that's in our DNA. And so therefore, you know, and I think so much of what, you know, we do is just sort of programmed into us from a very young age. Like you see it in the movies, let's go to the bar, let's have a beer, let's do this. I mean, this is not even just about drinking. This is about everything that we do, you know? So to me, I was just like, I'm going to create a space where we can do these things and there doesn't have to be drinking. And now I can, like I have a group of friends where we meet and we kind of talk about the current happenings with the situation right now. with people being sick and lockdowns and things like that. And, we get together a couple times a month and we talk about these things, and people are drinking wine, and I have a glass of wine now. And it's taken on a totally different meaning than what it was before.
Yes. Yeah. And I think there's a lot to what you're saying that I really resonate with. And just back to the bar thing, it's like, well, you can go to the bar and hang out because that's where people are hanging out. You're just going, if you're not also drinking, you are going to be in a different headspace than the other people. And that, like, that difference that can be a barrier as well. Right. So it's like, it's, I think having been married for as long as I have now, and like, I kind of feel sorry for people that are single, living on their own, and like don't really care for that lifestyle, but aren't really sure where else to get their social fix, 100%. Because like we are designed to be social creatures. I mean, I think of Native Americans a lot, like, if you can't tell, but I mean, shoot, if you had them be like isolated and you had your own teepee and you just didn't see other people in your camp or whatever, your tribe all that much, and you didn't have really close friends, like, I mean, that's not how that was designed to work. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they were on this land first. So like, I do really feel sorry for, particularly with this lockdown, people that are single, living on their own, and don't have good, strong community. That's an issue.
I agree.
And that issue is manifesting itself with increased depression and anxiety and suicide rates and all that. So I mean, it is a really, really big thing. But the other thing that I really resonate with, you have felt this kind of pull or tug between music and spirituality for some time. I have felt a big tug between my faith and business. I mean, going back years, and it kind of like got exaggerated, even a few years ago, when I felt like I kind of had like my faith matured in a way that it hadn't really before. And things were a little bit more clear than maybe than had been at times past. Like, it became, I guess, more important to me at a practical, daily, kind of every day, every moment type of a level, when maybe in the past it hadn't been so much. A little bit more like, I hate to say check, it wasn't a check a box, but when it became like more real to me, I really felt it's like, how do you balance faith and those principles with business? Like, it seems very like counterintuitive. Like, in business, it's more like you got to look out for yourself, it seems, and like those types of things. Well, but then like you want to be selfless. Like, how does this even work? Like, it just felt like oil and water a lot. So like you grappling through like music and spirituality is something I feel like I really resonate with as well.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing right now is like, and I'm just going to go ahead and get esoteric, because why not? With this year, 2020, is very symbolic of kind of the falling of systems. And if you look into astrology, this has been prophesized many, many, many times of what's happening right now. We're going to enter the Age of Aquarius officially on the 21st of this week.
Of December. Okay.
And this is the way that the astrology is aligned. It forms like the Star of David on the 21st. And this is, you probably heard a lot of people talk about the new earth. So systems are falling and crashing away. And when that happens, there's a lot of homeostasis, which is when our psychosis is like, wait, like everything we knew, that's exactly what this year has been. Like everything, who am I then? Like, if I don't have the bar, who am I if I don't go on tour? Who am I if I can't, there's all these, nothing is really working anymore, because it was never really, it's not quite designed the way that we are truly designed, our true selves. And that's the same of business. Business falls under that category as well, just as much as the music industry does. These ways of living that are, I've heard it being said as self-serving rather than service to self rather than service to others. Basically, we're designed to be serving one another, thinking of the whole, living with compassion and love and unity, these higher frequencies. That is where humans were meant to be by now. And we haven't. And now it's like ready or not, here it is.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, in my view, of what's coming up. We're coming upon the new Earth. So there's a lot of people, if anybody's interested who's listening, a lot of people are talking about the fifth dimension, how we're entering into the fifth dimension. The third dimension is one of why probably you struggle with business, one of greed, service to self, just sort of like having to break another's back to get ahead, those kind of ways of thinking, needing to be an opportunist to get to my place in music that I've been wanting to get, these ways of thinking that are just sort of like self-serving, are not designed to be in this kind of new, we're birthing a new Earth, if you will, that is supposed to, like I said, be on those higher frequencies. So, these align with a lot of the conspiracy theories that people are calling theories. Yeah. The conspiracy theories that critical thinkers are being called.
Like which ones?
Just the idea of that, like just kind of what I'm talking about, the ascension into the fifth dimension. And then some people will tie that into like, the cabal and things like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just, there's a lot of different like angles that you can kind of look at it, that really the old systems are falling and the powers that be that have been kind of running the show are, it can't sustain itself anymore. It's just not a pure, it's the opposite of light, and it's just not gonna kind of work anymore. Which is, some people will think it's the cabal, some people will think it's, what are the other conspiracy theories? They think it's what is the QAnon, things like that.
Yeah, well, when you said cabal, I was going to ask if you knew about QAnon, or if that was kind of tied in with that.
I think that everything's sort of being lumped together, unfortunately, with the way that the media twists things, to kind of keep it separate, keep that separatism, and with the fifth dimension is unity.
Okay. Is that what the fifth dimension is?
Yeah. So
primarily?
So the fifth dimension. So there's many different dimensions. So like if you take psychedelics, you're kind of allowing your mind to go fish around in the other dimensions.
Right.
That's one way of doing it, right? Another way of doing it is that's what the yogis would call the nectar of enlightenment. When they would sit and they would finally reach that place of self-realization, God realization, it was just like the most blissful place, because it was just like that true all is oneness, right? So that is that fifth dimension where we truly are all one. So a lot of these spiritual teachers are talking, now take away the cabal and QAnon and all that, they're just speaking of this birth into the fifth dimension that's happening. And this is such an auspicious time to dive into spirituality. It's such an auspicious time to question things, to learn how to use your intuition, to learn how to use these ancient practices that were designed to have us kind of awaken the inner compass that I was speaking of earlier. It's unfortunately, people are getting depressed and anxietal and suicide, where a lot of people that I know are having major awakenings, myself included. I've developed deeper friendships in the time of 2020 than ever before in my life, because I found a community of people that were kind of, questioning the narrative and just sort of finding their own truths and talking about that openly. And now we've become really close friends. Like I said, we meet like once or twice a month, sometimes we even have wine.
Yep.
We pretty much every time have wine, unless we're doing, a yoga circle. We don't do wine or the healing circles, but I'm just saying, like, it's a whole different, because I'll just kind of bounce off that for a second, which back to the drinking thing, because, in this case, it's not the collective meeting isn't around alcohol, right? It's around connection. It's around seeking truth. It's around conversation. And then there may be a celebratory, drink or two in there, but it's got such a different meaning to it than, like, do you see what I'm saying?
Of course.
Like,
yes. Alcohol is serving the group. The group's not serving the alcohol.
Right. Right. And
very different.
Yes. So, and it's definitely right. It's not running the show, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, yeah, so this is such an important time, which also is why I've been staying active with the mindfulness. I started doing virtual, and now I'm actually I did an in-person circle that sold out last month. I'm doing another one on Saturday. I just truly believe that now is such a important time, and it's so the veil is very thin between the spiritual world and the physical to receive healing, opening, downloads. So I want to be able to provide the opportunity for people to kind of seek that within themselves.
Yeah. I want to hear more about these. I'd love to hear more about kind of what you believe, because this spiritual journey that you've been on and having learned a lot and, giving it special interest for a long period of time, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. But I'd also love to hear about these. Did you say a mindfulness circle that you have Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay. What is that?
So I call them sacred circles.
Okay.
The last one was a sacred full moon circle. This one is going to be a solstice circle. The 21st is the solstice. So I figured it was a good time to rally and use that energy to kind of open up. And
what's the significance of the solstice? I'm sorry.
Solstice is, that's okay. Solstice is the darkest day of the year. And then the light comes and we start having longer days again. So this was always a time, and the ancients and the elders would see it as calling back the light, because, winter is a time of reflection, you kind of, hibernation, or maybe doing your shadow work, kind of looking at the parts of you that maybe you haven't been so honest with yourself about, or your fears and anxieties. And then the solstice comes, and that's like where Christmas came from too. Like, you're calling back the light. Lights on the tree, lights on the house. It's like I think, I don't know when Jesus was actually born, but it wasn't actually on Christmas.
Probably not.
So the celebration of lights came before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't there a summer solstice too, or no?
Yep.
Okay.
And fall equinox, autumn equinox.
Okay.
There's a great resource. There's a thing called Gaia TV, GAIA, and it's like a Netflix for spirituality, and they have it's so cool. Like, there's anywhere from like people talking about like extraterrestrial things to like the Mayans to, it goes super out there, and then there's just like meditation classes on it for 20 minutes, or yoga classes on it, or digging into the archaeology of the Aztec, things like, it's really, really cool. And they talk a lot about a lot of these topics, and that's what my partner and I, we watch it all the time. We love it. It's a great resource. There's another great resource called Spirit Science on YouTube. Super cool. Talks about all this stuff, and he's so great. He does it in cartoon form, so it lightens it a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And he
nice.
talks about, he always says, these are just, after the research I've done, these are my opinions. Check it out, see what resonates, kind of thing. No one's forcing anything on anyone, but it's definitely expansive way of thinking things, not stuff you'll see in everyday TV.
I've never heard of the guy. You said Gaia.tv?
Gaia TV.
Gaia TV. I've never heard of that.
So they talk a lot about these types of things. So yeah, so the solstice, we're going to gather, and I usually host it. Now I've been doing it at Bend and Zen Hot Yoga, because it's a big space. It's a very big space. So
Where is that?
It's in West Nashville on Charlotte, and we'll all kind of gather in a circle and do some Kundalini Yoga, and then we'll do some mantra or something with like intention. So usually the new moon or the solstice is a great time to set your intentions for kind of plant the seeds, plant the harvest. Now that the light's coming back. So we'll do some kind of, like intention setting, where maybe I'll give them some journal prompts or something like that.
And might these be intentions for the year ahead, or the week, or the month, or kind of what period of time?
So when we do the new moon circles, it will be like the intention until the next moon cycle. So a month, 30 days. But the solstice is more of like for the year ahead.
I see. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to backtrack just a touch. You mentioned a particular type of yoga that you do before the setting the intentions.
Kundalini Yoga.
Kundalini Yoga.
That's what I started back in college. I had done my first Kundalini Yoga class, and then when I lived in Austin, I trained to be a Kundalini Yoga teacher, which is now going on 15 years ago, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what is that? I'm familiar with yoga. My wife was doing it all the time. I don't know what type of yoga she was doing, but what is Kundalini Yoga?
Kundalini Yoga is Kriya Yoga. So if you kind of read about what's the word I'm looking for? Lineage yoga, like the real kind of OG, not like hot pants pretzel kind of yoga. All right. There's these Kriya yogas that are like a little bit more based, a lot more based. Like in Kundalini Yoga, the teachers wear all white. because the white, wearing white has the highest frequency or vibration.
Really?
So it holds all the colors of the aura in one place. So it kind of strengthens your electromagnetic field.
Okay.
So they wear all white. It's a lot of breath work. It's a lot of mantra, just kind of like holding your hands up in the air and doing a breath of fire for like 3 minutes. It's more to amplify the electromagnetic field, more spiritual. Yeah.
That is fascinating. Yeah, Jonathan, you had something pulled up there. Do you still have that? And sorry, the TV's behind you. We have to change that. But I think you just pulled a picture up with some Kundalini Yoga. Yeah. Does that look about right? Most of them are wearing white.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So focuses on opening up the chakras, and it's just more about kind of keeping the pipes clear energetically, and
Is this something where a beginner, like I do CrossFit but I don't do yoga, I would really benefit from traditional types of yoga anyway, like the type my wife was doing, because my mobility sucks. My point is, could I come in and like do something like that, or is this something you have to kind of work up to? You
could definitely, like, I do all the circles beginner friendly personally, because Kundalini can definitely be intense, not because you're like, it's not intense like because it's hard because you're holding downward dog for 15 minutes. It's not like that, or like, it's more just like, okay, breath of fire. How do you do that correctly? I'm holding my arms up and I'm doing that. My arms are burning, but it's purifying and it's different. So a lot of people might feel like it's hard because it's so unfamiliar. So I would always say, like, if you're, but it is beginner friendly. And so basically there's Kriyas, which are sets of exercises there's thousands of them that are pre-made, and the teachers just follow them. So there might be a Kriya to open the heart center. There might be a Kriya for your kidneys. There might be a Kriya for your liver, and some are harder than others. So I always, if I do a circle, I'm realizing in Nashville, it's not a huge community. There is a Kundalini community here, but it's not huge. So a lot of people are new. So I always kind of make sure I choose something that everybody can do. Yep. If I would suggest, if anybody listening wants to try Kundalini Yoga, there's tons of YouTube videos. There's some on the Gaia TV that I was talking about. And then if you want to go to a class in person, just ask that particular teacher if it's beginner friendly for that class, just to check in. But honestly, it's like anything else. Like you just trust yourself and do what you can, and know that you're going to get what you're meant to get out of it, and you will. Don't let it scare you. It's a lot different than going into like a flow class where everybody looks like super sexy and like, knows how to do all the motions and everything. And you feel like you're like, a penguin trying to like hold one foot up.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's no, it's not glamorous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Everyone can, you keep your eyes closed when you practice.
You do?
Yeah. Like you'll watch the teacher and, see he or her do the position. And then once you got it, you close your eyes and focus at your third eye point.
Oh, I see.
So it's like, it's not like you're really worrying about anyone else.
Gotcha. And when you mentioned setting intentions, is this something that people are writing something down, or are they just kind of, committing it to memory?
I like when they write it down. I have them write it down. Yeah. I'll be providing like a little journal for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. We had one guy the last time.
Okay.
We need more men stepping up and doing these things. I did a ceremony in Nashville this weekend with some shamans that I work with, and it was equal men and women, but in Nashville it seems to still be a little split.
I can see that.
Yeah, in the I think in like the core yoga and stuff like that, you'll see like a 50-50, but it seems like more in these like spiritual circles, I would really love to see more men show up, because it helps the energy, that masculine and the feminine combined. Is like, this is not just like, fluffy work. This is like real shit.
And it helps when you have energy represented from both genders, basically.
Yeah, we need that right now. We need the masculine, we need that like, assertiveness and that strength, and then the feminine, to allow emotions and receiving. We're supposed to all be a blend of the both. We're not supposed to just be one way. We're supposed to have those two in balance. So, when you're in a room full of 15 women, and then there's like, we had like one guy, I was like, thank you. He brought, it wasn't like, oh, it's weird, there's one guy here. It was like, awesome, Yeah.
That's a pretty cool perspective.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot, not to derail or like sidetrack, but I kind of feel like that perspective isn't, some people might think that to be true or know that to be true or feel that to be true, but don't say it because they're worried about being sexist or, I mean,
oh yeah,
there's some, let's put it this way. There's some people today that would think what you just said is crazy, right? Like you
can't say anything anymore.
Gender is just a social construct, right? Right? Like, but you're saying no, there's actually male and female and they have different energies.
Yeah, there's male and so I'm saying that me as a female, I have both masculine and feminine energy, and that it is important to balance the two. For instance, well, let's keep it simple. For instance, let's make it about business. Okay, let's make it about work. The feminine would be me telling myself, you know what? I have 3 calls today and I'm just freaking exhausted and I need to take care of my body and I'm going to do that. I'm going to cancel those calls and reschedule them for next week. That's the feminine, taking care of myself and listening to my intuition. The masculine would be like, okay, I feel good today. I'm lining up this call. I'm going to, be confident and what's the word? Determined. And I'm not going to the emotions are there, but they're going to take the back burner for right now. Today is a day that I need to get stuff done. And then, if I'm having some feels about life, I'm going to journal about them later. Okay, but today I'm going to get shit done. That's kind of that. If you could feel the difference in energy, they're both important. They're both really strong. So we need to balance those. And yes, in many cases, an actual man, at this point, would represent that, that masculine, in a group of women. Now, I know that this gets tricky, but this is just kind of like the meat and potatoes of the way I feel that it is. And many of my teachers do too, in that sense.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you about this. This came up in another podcast with Mary June Miller. I forget which episode that was. But we were talking about something she'd been learning a lot of was on the masculine and feminine energy. It's kind of what you're talking about. Okay. So she laid out a few, I guess, typical or stereotypical or common masculine traits and then feminine traits. Okay. And the one that popped up as the feminine traits were the one that just comes to mind was passion. She had that lumped in with kind of a feminine trait. Okay. And then masculine is more like order and structure. It's exactly what you're saying. Right. My question to her was, and I would ask you the same question. I don't disagree with anything necessarily that you just said. I don't think I even disagree with anything that Mary June was just saying. Some of these things are a little new to me and I'm just curious. Who says passion is a feminine trait? Can't passion just be passion? You know what I mean?
I've never heard that was a feminine trait.
Okay. Let's pick one that you would say is a feminine trait
the ability to receive.
Okay. Well, that's tougher to argue against, right? Because that's just, yeah.
To allow yourself to
you have another one that's easier to argue against?
I mean, they're obvious, So when I say let's say when I say feminine and masculine, I think this is important to acknowledge. I'm not talking about gender,
right?
Okay,
right.
So if I'm feminine, I'm putting that quotes for those of you who can't see me, and I'm crying all the time and super emotional, and expressing emotion is feminine energy, but not just to women. But let's say I'm a woman, and because I'm a woman, it's okay, and I cry all the time, and I'm very emotional. That's an imbalance. You know what I'm saying? That's that feminine energy is on overload. I need a little more masculine balance in there. I need to bring in the masculine energy of knowing how to carve out time, to allow for those emotions to flow and to know when it's not serving me to kind of spiral in that, and I need to get shit done.
Yes. Okay. That's a good one. And so on that, and by the way, I actually agree with what you're saying. I'm playing the devil's advocate here because I'm actually curious about this. So take emotion, for example. That's sort of, would you say that's fair to say most would sort of say that's a feminine characteristic?
Feminine energy.
Okay.
But you have that in you, and it would be healthy for you as a man to express that.
Agreed. Well, that's where I was going is, okay, if we say that emotion is a feminine energy, can't emotion just be emotion? Because at the end of the day, both feminine and masculine, or both male and female, kind of need emotion, right? And and like there's this kind of a stereotype where men are less emotional. The truth is, I guess probably statistically a lot are maybe a little bit less emotional, but like emotion is a very,
for humans,
that's a gift,
it's
right?
humanity. Yeah, this is more of I guess understanding like let's go back to nature. This is more like how we are reflective of nature. You know, Native American, you said, Father Sky, right? Mother Earth. There's a dance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. This is what I'm more speaking of, is the energetics of the divine masculine. Yep. So I know that when I'm needing the feeling of mother, of love, of being held, I call on the divine feminine. Maybe that's the Mother Mary. Maybe that's there's plenty of deities in the yogic traditions and even in Kuan Yin in the Asian traditions that you would kind of call on that assistance from that feminine. I'm needing the feminine. Yeah. I'm needing mother. You know what I mean? And then you call in the protector, maybe like the Archangel Michael. I'm calling on that warrior, feeling of that masculine protection. I'm needing that father energy, that male masculine energy. I think where it's getting blurred is thinking of male and female gender. Penis, vagina. Sorry, yeah. But I'm just, you know what I mean. These it is helpful. This rhetoric is beyond your day-to-day dialogue. This is more. I'm speaking of it in the divine terms. I'm speaking of it in how the bee and the pollen and the flower. I'm speaking of how nature, works in the energies of it, and how we are made of the same organic matter, and how we have those energies, and how it's important to know how to integrate both. Yes. It's not political.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, and I don't nothing that you're saying is I'm just disagreeing with, and also like it's back to the male and female. Like I do get the energy thing, but also it's masculine, whatever the root name is, like that would come from male, right? And feminine energy comes from female. So like there's still an element where you can't disregard gender altogether, right? I know this is not what we're talking about, but right. but a male would tend to have more masculine energy or more masculine characteristics, and it would have also some feminine energy as well.
A balance, a balance of it too. Let's say like this gentleman practices yoga. No, let's assume that he knows when his feelings are coming up and knows how to investigate and carve out time to see what's coming up. He's not just all like, I'm a dude and like right. to be, you know what I'm saying? But yes, now across the board, I know that many people are identifying as this and that and whatever, and that's totally, I get it. I respect everybody, but at the end of the day too, like a balanced energy looks a certain way. So for them, right, they still need to provide themselves with healthy emotionality, the ability to know when to turn on the assertiveness. Is this like, that's what I'm saying about it being like more of a genderless thing.
Yes, that does make sense. And we need to come back to kind of your circle and that you have planned for Saturday and how you will kind of walk through that time. But another point on what we're talking about with masculine and feminine energies is Mary June was saying there are some people out there making a crap ton of money right now selling courses on this stuff.
Oh, sure.
So maybe
making a crap ton of money. Yeah, this is not, it's honestly not my expertise talking about the masculine and the feminine. I'll be totally honest with you. I'm still learning about, I'm pretty intuitive about it in my own life. Because I'm very much like, I don't feel like working today. I'm going to nap all day. Okay. And I think that I can kind of fall into too much of that, the feminine, rather than like, no, girl, like it's time to like get some shit done, or like clean up my money systems and things like that. That's kind of considered, again, masculine energy, not man energy, right? Masculine energy.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like isn't it also true, like highly creative people kind of have that gift too, where they're like, I'm going to take a few naps together.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's all like, I was under this illusion that I was dividing myself. It's all, I'm still a musician.
This is why it's so not fair for like highly creative people, because they can be like the worst at administration, the worst at scheduling, the worst at routine. Like, so a lot of society would say like the worst at like, I don't know, going about living their life, right? Very free-spirited and taking all these things. And yet when they make art, the world can't live without it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
well, it goes, again, going back to the structures falling right now. I think that's part of it. It's like, who the hell said that we're supposed to be on the clock 9 to 5,
Right.
5 days a week, or that we have to get a certain amount of hours? I know that I have to remind myself of this all the time. If I need 3 days of rest because I'm totally an empath and I pick up on everything and I feel floored, if I could just allow myself just to shut it off for 3 days, that fourth day, I'm going to get more done in that fourth day than I would all month if I just honored, what the way that I'm wired.
Yes.
And the way I'm designed.
By the way, you just said empath, and you also said earlier when you were talking about the bars or whatever with
smoking the pot.
Yeah. What is that? What's
empath? It's like really sensitive to other people's like emotions and energy. Like,
I see.
So, like I could walk in a room and just take on a lot of if someone's experiencing a lot of fear. Let's say I walked in the room and you were having a lot of anxiety, I might all of a sudden feel really anxious and not know why.
Oh, wow.
And learning to discern what's yours and what's not, it's not an easy thing to do. Yeah. Or like I might wake up one day and be super pissed off and then, and be like, wow, this is ridiculous. I don't understand why I'm so mad. And then, I might talk to like my sister and like something happened,
wow.
You kind of like, you could, I think more of us do this than not.
Yeah.
I just think that no one has really explained it. So a lot of people think that they are anxious all the time when really it's like they're just really sensitive. And
I see. Yeah. All right. So how much time?
Were we all over the place?
No,
today?
I was taking us all over the place. Yeah, we're good.
Talked about a lot.
How much time for the intentions then? Back to the circle.
Gosh, I don't know. We do about, I try to get everybody in a super Zen place basically through the meditation and the yoga. And then, I'll talk a little bit about the theme, and then, I'll kind of give them some journal prompts, and they'll journal for maybe like 5 minutes per prompt or something. So maybe it's like a 20-minute process, 15-minute process. And then typically they'll, we'll do some kind of like rest. I like to do either like a sound bath or listen to some kind of music just to kind of reset the energy. And then maybe we'll do like a mantra to really like put it out there, and the intentions. Like just everything's very like ritualistic. Like it's all intention and symbolic. So like, I could line these 3 bottles up and be like, I'm lining these 3 bottles up, and that's gonna, connect me to my human self, the earth and the heaven. And that was my ritual. Anything can be a ritual. It's just your intention and what you put into it. But some of these rituals that I do and that I use in my circles are just happen to be ancient, more like either Native American or shamanic or, yogic and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. And then what else will you do in these circles?
So we'll do some Kundalini Yoga. Usually we'll do a short set to start just to get the body moving. So in yoga, a lot of people don't know that we move the body so that you can get into a meditative state a lot quicker. And the body has the energy moving, the blood moving, then you could kind of relax. So then you come into the meditative state. So we do some Kundalini Yoga. We might do a short meditation afterwards. Probably, either sit and meditate for a little bit or relax and then get up and do the intentions. And then once we do the intentions, like I said, we'll do some kind of like ritual, either mantra or some kind of ritual to kind of really kind of send it out, kind of thing.
And this whole thing is 2 hours?
About 2 hours.
Okay.
We'll usually do like vegan snacks and stuff afterwards. Like this time I have a holistic chef. She's coming. She's going to make some treats for everybody at the end and talk a little bit about food as medicine and how certain foods actually help to decalcify the pineal gland, which is your third eye. Your third eye is what you see a lot of the yogis wearing the bindi right in their third eye. In yoga, you activate the pineal gland, and it puts you in those deep meditative states very quickly.
Certain foods help with that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Do you know what those foods are, or are you about to learn it as well?
Well, I mean, just eating a clean diet in general, if anything that's not in a box is going to work well for you. Not drinking fluoride. Fluoride calcifies the pineal gland.
Drinking fluoride, how would you do that?
It's in our water. It's
Yeah,
in
okay,
toothpaste. It's in foods that are not being consciously made. So there's things you could take, like I take iodine in the morning to help to kind of remove the fluoride from my system. In case I don't eat out as much anymore because I like to really be in kind of awareness of what's going into my body.
Yeah. And all right, so can you talk a little bit more about the third eye? I mean, I'm aware of it. I don't know a ton about it. And particularly, you said the pineal gland?
Yeah. So if you even just like close the eyes for a minute and just gently sort of roll the eyes up to the center of the forehead, about a half an inch above the brow point, you could feel like a gentle pressure there. Another way to do it is just to tip your head back. Oops, I don't want to stay on the mic, but tip your head back and let the eyes roll where they go. And then you could kind of feel that pressure at the third eye point.
Okay.
So a lot of times when you meditate, you can, and especially in Kundalini Yoga, you bring the eyes, the gentle pressure there, and you're stimulating that part of the brain that releases the hormone, the serotonin, the things that kind of make people start to go into that more relaxed and then further and further, hopefully, that blissful state of consciousness.
Do you actually roll your eyes up when you're doing this?
Yep, I do.
Okay.
Yep.
And I feel like do people, just doing it for a second, do people sometimes, does anyone ever complain about headaches like when they roll their eyes up? Like, I feel like if I would do that for some period of time.
You'll get used to just doing like a gentle roll up. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be putting this major pressure. It's just a gentle roll up. And then some people that like it doesn't come naturally to, I just say just imagine like a laser light there while you're doing this. See if you can see if you could bring your focus as you're doing this exercise to that third eye point.
I see. Yep. Do you meditate on a daily basis or multiple meditations a day, or how do you use meditation kind of for yourself?
Ideally, I'm meditating like 3 times a day. It doesn't always happen, but for me, that's medicine. It's like popping a pill 3 times a day so that I don't have anxiety. You know what I mean? When I don't take it, I have a bad day.
Really? 10 minutes, 20 minutes? How long?
So a lot of these practices are suggested to do for at least 11 minutes. Like if I'm doing a mantra, I'll chant it for either 108 times, or, if it's a Kundalini meditation, you do it for like 11 minutes or 21 minutes. I typically do around 11 minutes. I like to do a little bit of stretching beforehand just to get the body moving.
Okay.
So that's ideally in the morning, I'll move, meditate. And then somewhere in the afternoon, if I'm having a work day, if I'm getting like a little spazzy, like by 3-4 p.m., it would be in my best interest to sit my ass down and just do some deep breathing or do like a, breath work exercise. I don't always do that, but if I were my ideal day, I would, because I know that it's just like, it means I'm taking on, too much energy. I just need to kind of ground again. And then again, ideally before bed, just to clear the mind, purify the mind before we go into the dream state, where we do a lot of unconscious healing work. A lot of things that we can't process during the day get worked out in our dream state. So to be clear when we sleep is very important.
Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned, I believe you said you've been vegetarian for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of curious, like what else you're doing, or just to make a comment, like it seems like what you're doing is really working. Like you look very healthy.
Oh, thank you.
Your skin looks like, like you can, like it looks healthy.
I'm 41.
No, you're not.
I am.
You're 41 years old?
41. I'll be 42 in March.
Wow. Yeah, well then even more so. Like you really do. You look way younger than 41. You look very healthy. So whatever you're doing, I think is really working.
All that partying, I don't know, that we talked about.
Well, it's probably because you quit partying, right? I'm sure that helps.
Mixed in, I was doing the practice alongside. So
yeah, breath work. That's another thing I wanted to ask you about, and maybe you know a lot about this, maybe you don't. But what do you know about breath work? What do you do for breath work?
So breath work is a buzzword now. A lot of people are doing it. Same thing with sound bath. So I know the breath work that I learned through Kundalini Yoga, which is like breath of fire, doing breaths where you're inhaling for a 4-stroke, like holding for a 4-stroke and then exhaling through the mouth. That to me, that's a breathing technique exercise that you would do in like Kundalini Yoga, and you would do that for like 11 minutes and you feel pretty amazing afterwards. You do that for 11 minutes. What's if someone does that, what's kind of the result they can expect? Just clear, more vibrant, seeing colors a little more like a little HD. Really? Yeah. So breathe in through your nose. So Yeah. So
And then hold for 4
you
seconds.
could hold for a 4 count, and then a slow exhale through the mouth would work. Yeah. Or exhale through the nose, whatever you're feeling called to do. But that's just sort of an example of how these like Kundalini yoga breaths work, and just basically just ancient yogic breaths, not just Kundalini. That's just where I learned it. But breath work, I know a lot of people are like breath work facilitators. That's what they do. I did one breath work course, and it was like nothing I'd ever done before. It was really intense. I felt amazing afterwards, but it was like a half an hour of just like lying down and doing this like sipping, and then it was really, really intense. So I don't know. I'm learning about these breath work circles that I'm seeing. You know, I just am using. I'm using yogic protocol that I was trained in, you know. Okay.
Will you do that 11-minute breath work that you just kind of demonstrated for us? Do you do that every day or not necessarily?
No. So there's certain ones for like, and honestly, 3 minutes. The cool thing about Kundalini Yoga is like 3 minutes is, well, you'll see a difference. Like if I do breath of fire for 3 minutes, I'll do that sometimes before a call or something, and like feel way more grounded. It works quick.
Okay.
It works really quick, yeah.
You mentioned having experiences with shamans a few times. Mm-hmm. I don't know much about this. I have mostly heard about shamans as it relates to like psychedelics. Mm-hmm. Is there other uses for shamans outside of that, or are you using psychedelics with these shamans? Or?
Shaman just means healer, you know, really at the end of the day. But a lot of people kind of like but I guess more traditionally, it's usually related to like, I would say either, you know, kind of that South American shaman. You hear a lot of these, they're medicine people, basically, you know, who learned old remedies that have to do with using the earth and the astral plane to heal. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, that is to me what a shaman is, who's been versed, who's had an elder who's taught them, you know, the way. A lot of people call them shaman's also a loose word now, you know. Yeah. In the traditional sense, though, you know, typically, the shamans I work with they've been married for 11 years. They're probably in their early 60s. The male is from Argentina, and he studied. His teacher taught him how to work with the plant medicines in the Amazon, and you know, he had to do 12 days in the jungle where he had to just kind of, you know, you only eat these plant medicines, and he's
like by himself.
Yeah, I believe so. I would like to talk to him more about that one day, but he's an ayahuasquero, and he's been doing it a long time and very humble. And the plant medicine ayahuasca is typically associated with a lot of shamans, but now I'm seeing a lot of people doing, you know, medicine circles with mushrooms and psychedelics and stuff like that. I personally, if I'm going to do any kind of astral traveling through psychotropics, it is with the ayahuasca medicine, and only because I've found a very good ayahuasquero. You need to be really careful now, since these things have become sensationalized, of just doing them with anyone, because somebody who's not really well versed or knows how to basically battle the darker energies, you could really be opening yourself up to some things that you would not really want to. So I urge anybody who has been, you know, playing with the idea of working with the plant medicine to really make sure you're working with somebody who knows what they're doing. That's
so important, isn't it? Like, as these things are becoming more popular and more commonly used, there are people that you can't trust, right? And you're just making the point that if you're going to do these types of things, then use shamans or use people that facilitators, be around facilitators.
I mean, I see these like entrepreneurs online. They're doing medicine circles. They're just, you know, eating mushrooms, and someone's like, it's fine. It's just like, be careful, you know?
So I haven't done ayahuasca. It seems intimidating to me. There's, it's pretty intense, right?
It is, but you know, even you don't, the YouTube videos, you know, it's like everything's sensationalized, you know? It's intense, you know, you definitely meet it can be really beautiful, and it could be, uncomfortable, but if you're with someone holding the right space, it's like, and you face your shadow, and you come out on the other side, you know?
Well, there are some really incredible stories. I mean, that podcast I used to listen to a little bit more, but Tim Ferriss went through some major healing from ayahuasca sessions.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of people have, right? I mean, I read a book about a year ago called How to Change Your Mind. It's talking about particularly mushrooms, but also other types of psychedelics that they're now doing testing in this country. And the results are pretty astonishing.
Yeah, because it's opening
how
up,
effective it is.
because it's expanding the mind. So excuse me. So like this third eye opening, our diets, our devices, our habits of drinking, the things that I believe were fed on the media, this all clouds that third eye. So then people like microdose now or take mushrooms and are just like, they feel great. They feel more at home because they are, in a sense, because they're awakening that third eye point. They're seeing things for how they really are. We live in an upside down world. This is not real. All the way we live, this is my opinion, I'll keep throwing that in there. All the way that we live is very counterintuitive to our true nature. And so then people take these enhancement, things that help to expand the mind, and it's helpful. And what I believe, again, my opinion is that take the mushrooms, experience it, work with the ayahuasca if you can find somebody who's trustworthy and really knows how to, it's been doing it a long time. But they're just there to show you what you're capable of. And you're capable of experiencing that bliss and that oneness through working for it. And I talked to some friends of mine about this with marijuana. Like, one person in particular, we kind of bicker a little bit about it because my partner, because he, is like, but I feel expansive when I do it. I'm like, yeah, but like work for it now. Like she gave you that. She gave you, what it feels like to be opened up, to show you what's possible. But now you have the tools to get there yourself. So I think when we become dependent on anything, I don't think it's anything. Like if the universe, God, the divine gives you something it's out of love, you know what I'm saying, to show you. And then now, find the strength, the devotion, the daily commitment to that divinity that gave you that thing to, try to, work with it directly.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really great perspective. And yeah, I think that that is a question that doesn't get asked, or that's a point that's not made nearly enough, is when you find something that works, then figure out a way to sort of get there without the crutch, I guess. And yet also like with marijuana, like it's a certain plant that tends to give people a certain reaction. And so it's like, is it fair to think you can get there without it? You know what I mean? Like, you eat a certain type of food to get a certain type of result. This plant does a certain type of thing, but we don't say, well, now that, you receive kind of this benefit from food, now try to get there without food. You know what I mean? Like, do you see the point I'm trying to make?
Sure. I also
you can definitely abuse anything. It, right? You can abuse pot or food or anything.
I think it's up to each individual to really like check their intention and whether it's serving them or not. I have my opinions. I have my opinions on what I've seen in my 41 years of, what I've been through myself, and some of them are my projections, of course, you know what I mean? But some of them, might be a little wisdom in there as well. And some of it just might be completely untrue for people, and I talk about this a lot. Like for me, I feel like, I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. I feel like marijuana was legalized to it does put a little bit of a veil around us. And I say this because I know what it's like to smoke weed. I used to wake up and smoke every day. I lived in Hawaii when I was like 18 years old, and we would literally wake up and smoke pot every day. Like I understand the way these things work. I'm not just preaching. And to me, what I experienced was it would just put a little bit of a veil. So while I would feel expansive and like, it would be really cool sometimes when I was like freaking out about something. And if I took a hit of pot, it would just like knock me into another perspective. And that was really helpful sometimes. And I bet that would still be helpful now sometimes when I really need to just get knocked out of a spin, a little tailspin. But when I've done like a deep practice, like how I feel after that, after I really put in like some time on breath work and yoga, or, you know, or a ceremony, I'm talking about days after, like an ayahuasca ceremony, like after I've basically sweated and cried for 6 hours straight in the ceremony. It's lighter. It's more open. To me, it feels more expansive. It's way different than pot, you know? So I just, you know, ever experiment. Like if you want to smoke pot every day, awesome. Like maybe like then try 20 minutes of not and doing some kind of practice and how you feel afterwards, and just compare the two, you know?
Don't you think a lot of people are scared about the clarity, about the purity, about the vision, you know, like what you're talking about coming through these sessions, whether it's ayahuasca or meditation or breath work or whatever, you kind of have this cleansing, like your mind feels cleaner or more clear and you can kind of see things. But don't you think a lot of people are actually afraid of that? Like they don't want to press into that.
Oh,
like they're just looking to sort of get through the day
totally,
and not think about how bad life sucks, kind of.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, then, you know, then I'm definitely not for you.
Right.
Like in my circles or class, you know, and that's, you know, that's fine. Everybody's serving their purpose right now. Everybody's in a different place right now. If this lifetime is for them to just sort of get by with, you know, and just get to the end of the day and sleep, and, you know, that's not for me to judge, you know. But yeah, of course, there are people that they're not interested in that, and that's okay.
And then back to ayahuasca. My understanding is almost everyone that does that vomits, and I will do almost anything to not vomit.
Yeah, no,
is that not a thing?
Not with the people I work with. That's typically some traditions add purgatives in it, like tobacco and stuff like that, and they do that on purpose. They put things in there to help you purge because it's supposed to be symbolic of clearing things out.
Oh wow.
I say typically, but some ayahuasqueros just use the vine and the plant. They mix them together, and it's just pure. And maybe like 1 or 2 people might vomit out of like 20, but that's just...
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, I've done it. I've worked with the medicine like for the past 5 years, and I've never vomited once.
Oh, wow. And what is it? Is it a plant?
It's a vine. The ayahuasca vine, yeah.
Okay. Like the size of like a grapevine, or how?
It could go on for a while about this. It can be big. It just depends on how people harvest it. There's a really good... there's one documentary that I would love to be able to share as a resource. I think it's called Vine of the Soul, or Spirit. I'll have to get back to you on that. Maybe you could link it in the...
yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, because I would rather speak what I'm super knowledgeable on. I know that it's something with the C. It's the ayahuasca vine mixed with another plant that starts with a CH, and I'm blanking on it. And the two are harvested, you know, and then they're put in a big pot and they're boiled for hours. And there's the chemistry. It's like, you know, you just stir it for like hours to get the consistency and one is typically, I know, more of a kind of psychotropic energy, and the other one's physical. It's more of a physical, right? So sometimes like you'll take a dose and one will be more visual, and one will be, you know, and then you do take another dose and it's a little bit more like you feel it in the body. That's the two plants working together. And
I see. Yeah.
So if they're in balance, I know that you'll kind of feel that both kind of thing.
And are you drinking did you find it? Yeah, there it is. Ayahuasca Vine of the Soul. Is that the one?
I think that's the one. I know I was looking for another friend, and I hope that's the correct one.
2010.
I think that's a pretty good one, if I'm right. I'll double check when I get home.
This says, on a quest for spiritual awakening and healing, a naturopathic doctor and an accountant join others in the Amazon to drink a hallucinogenic brew called ayahuasca.
That's one of the ones I watched when I first was interested in the medicine. It's pretty good. It's pretty good in showing what it does. You know, yeah. I would say that's a pretty decent one, but just, you know, don't like think that experience is going to be yours. You know, if you're feeling called to work with the medicine, it will find you and it will give you exactly what you need.
Oh yeah.
End of story. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's like really what
that?
it is. Yeah. That's how I feel the medicine is, you know. don't force it. Don't go looking hard for it. Maybe read some material, but don't, Chelsea Handler on ayahuasca. Don't think that that's really, the most telling, accurate version of what an ayahuasca ceremony is.
Have you tried, I think it's 5-MeO-DMT, the
Smoking,
juice or whatever that comes off of a certain type of frog. Have you tried that?
Cambo, I believe it's called.
Maybe.
Yeah, I haven't. I know people have done that, but I'm not really.
Apparently that's real short and just like a different, very intense. Maybe that's probably the best word.
Physical, right?
I think so. He talked about it in that book.
Yeah, he was
scared to do it. And I think he did it then once. But.
There's a lot. There's San Pedro, which is like another plant from the Amazon. I mean, here's the thing. Ayahuasca is the mother plant of all the plants in the Amazon. So she holds all the medicinal qualities of every plant in the Amazon.
Really?
So basically our medicine pharmaceutical medicine mimics what is available for us through plant medicine. That basically the Amazon has all of it for mental health, for physical health. It's all there in the Amazon, and it's said that the queen medicine is the ayahuasca, and she holds all the properties of every other plant.
I'd never heard that.
So that's why she gives you what you need when you take it.
I see. Fascinating. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. Back to I would like to hear. Are you still working through this, having had a disconnect between music and spirituality, or have you been finding resonance there and sort of a blending in your work now between music and spirituality?
So basically the conclusion I came to was when the virus hit, everything became really clear to me that I was never going to resonate with the way that the music industry was being run and the way that I was trying to fit into it. I had a big awakening around that. But I also made the decision to not allow it to mean that I can't be a musician. So I've made 3 albums by myself already. It would just be a matter of the beauty of the way the internet is set up now. We can be we could be self-made, Right. And I was like, well, this is really cool because I could do it from a really organic place. But so there's some excitement about the idea of being able to write music from this place and share it as a gift, or that sounds a little bit egoic, not as a gift, as an offering.
Right.
I'd rather say it like that. So but oddly enough, I have not been writing as much, but what I have been doing is a lot of mantra and playing live mantra at the circles with guitar. And last time it was me playing guitar and singing, and the girl who was with us, she was playing singing bowls while we did the mantra, and that was really nice. So I'm starting to bring it back in with the mantra. I would really love to make a mantra album because there's so much beautiful mantra music out there, and that's really what I like to listen to now. In the house, I just listen to mantra music that's really well done. You know what I mean? It sounds like background music. It's not just somebody chanting.
Okay. You have a favorite artist or playlist or something?
Yeah, Ajit Kaur, AJEETKAUR. She's, and if you listen to her, it's she's just the softest, most soothing thing. There's just and there's another one, Simrit, SIMRIT. It's just, there's people doing cool shit with mantras, really good musicianship, high level. I mean, my boyfriend is an engineer, and he's like, this sounds amazing. It's this record was not easy to make,
Yeah.
So I'm really kind of getting excited at the idea of doing some mantra music and releasing that and being able to use that. So a lot of times I'll prescribe a mantra meditation to my private clients, and I'll give them a song version of it so they can do the mantra with the music, and it kind of takes away the I don't know, you kind of just relax into it and not worry about it and just do it along with the music. So it'd be really cool if I could provide that,
Absolutely.
to people who I'm working with, and if they want to use mine, they could, and if they don't, there's other options. And And just writing music now from a place is going to be a journey for me of writing from a place of not worrying about, you know, what they're wanting right now, you know, what the industry's needing, what's going to break, what's going to, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, oh, like I can just kind of like share a song with my following that's most likely going to be relative to whatever I'm going through or processing right now. And
yes. I know we got to get you out of here, man. There's like so much more to dig into on the spirituality front. Like there's a lot there. I'd love to. Yeah. Well, I think we might need to have you back. And of course we have some listeners in Nashville, and so they could potentially, if they're interested, get in on some of your Music City Mindfulness stuff by going to joannabarbera.com.
Yeah, that's fine. There's a link. It's funny. When you go to my landing page, is like music or mindfulness. I need to figure something else out. But yes, you can actually.
I like the clarity of that.
You
though.
do?
Yeah, I did.
I'm hearing many different things. Keep it separate. Keep your business separate from your music. I don't know. I'm still figuring that out. But I'd
be careful about that.
I know.
There was a clarity. I like the way you had it.
You did?
But yeah, I think it depends what direction you want to go or kind of what you're looking to get out of it. But just going to joannabarbera.com and having your music and Music City Mindfulness, that was kind of the two links right there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's clear to me. I like that.
Well,
cool. So I think with
know.
what you're doing right now, I think it's totally working. But it depends which direction you go or what you want to emphasize. Then maybe you change it up. But I really like that. Yeah.
Thanks. That's good to hear.
So people can, if they're in Nashville, they want to get in on some of your stuff, they could go there. I also saw you had Music City Mindfulness on Instagram.
Yeah,
right?
I'm very active on the Instagram for sure.
Okay.
I'll do like, there's a lot of, I should probably put these on my website too, but there's a lot of videos of meditations and stuff on there. So if you scroll through, like there's me leading on IGTV, some meditations and stuff and how to do them. So that's a good, resource for you if you want to just kind of check out the teaching style. And then I take on about 5 private clients per quarter. And I do actually do my private clients on Zoom because it's just convenient.
Yep.
So you don't have to be in Nashville.
I was going to say that. I thought you did some stuff virtually. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does that work?
The one-on-one does for me.
Okay.
Yeah. The circles, they were cool at the beginning, but since we live in Nashville and things are a little bit more open here, I've been enjoying getting back to doing the in-person.
Yeah. Yeah. Austin is pretty open too. I think it's, I was in Pittsburgh a few weeks ago and that airport is a ghost town.
Yeah.
And the Sheraton that we stayed in, I saw one other guest and I was there for 2 days and it was a business related thing. And then there's cities like Nashville and Austin that are pretty active. There's people in and out of B&A. And it's like, I'm not aware that B&A is spiking way more than Pittsburgh. So it's like, I mean, if cities want to just lock down, I guess they can do whatever they want, right? But not everyone is locked down, and
not here. Yeah,
we're still here, All right, do we cover anything else you wanted to touch on while you're here?
No, I think I think that covers it. I think that just sort of I guess if I was to offer anything, if anybody is looking for an offering, it would just be like, if you're getting that hit like I was, where I had to sort of alter myself, right, to fit into the path that I was so adamant on being my path, right? I had to do things that were in jeopardy of my truth. It's probably that particular way is probably not your path, And ever since I kind of realized that I had such a beautiful opportunity come in, they needed somebody to do some singing for this project. And I was singing for this guy who mixes for the Grammys. And I got to record with this really great producer. And it just like your path will open. The more true you are to yourself, the path will open up that aligns with your truth. If you are brave enough to walk away from the path that's not serving you. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to feel, it's supposed to be good for you, if that makes sense.
Your path.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And how do you just pay attention to your gut feeling? Do you pay attention to your intuition on that? How do you know if the path that you're on is good for you or not?
I think that it challenges you, but it feeds you. It feeds you. You want to be doing it. You feel purposeful. you feel aligned, and maybe that takes you diving onto a spiritual path so you know what alignment feels like. And I think that's why I struggled for so long, because I knew what alignment felt like. And I still kept going against that for the sake of my ego being so adamant about achieving my dream and thinking that that dream had to look a specific way, and not trusting, that I was so scared that if I didn't do that, then, I was never going to be able to have the life I was just so hell-bent on having. And this right now, when this lockdown and all this crap happened this year, like, it makes so much sense that I'm doing what I'm doing now. I think it's so important. What other work would be, important right now? And then I really do believe that, the music is going to just kind of blend right in with it. Mm-hmm. I have total faith in that. It's just not going to be a label telling me what to do. Why would I want that anyway?
Yes, totally agree.
I mean?
Totally agree.
Why would I want somebody to be like, well, you're going on tour and these are the days and you have to do this and you have to wake up on this? And I'm like, no, like, I've always loved working for myself. Like, that would have never worked for me. That's what was so interesting, It would have never worked.
Yeah.
I was forcing it.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Joanna, thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too.
And I'm really looking forward to next time you can be back on. I can hear a lot more about some of these things.
Yeah, now we could choose one of these topics.
Exactly.
to really talk about.
Love it. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
That was great.